Coming up today on the DLLS Stars Podcast, special guest from ESPN and ESPN.com, senior NHL writer Greg Wyshynski joins the show. We're excited to have him to lead off a Thursday edition of DLLS. On a Thursday, July 17th, live from our podcast studios. I'm Owen Newkirk. Of course, we will be having the full slate today with a special guest. Greg Wyshynski is joining us along with Sam and Luds. No Sean today, but that's okay. Before we get to it, though, we have to remind you that just dropping was the Dallas collection, brand new merch collection of some fantastic t-shirts here at DLLS, including the one I'm wearing right now, the Nolan Ryan decking Robin Ventura. There's 5 other options besides that, and I know Sam and Luds and Elijah and Sean all had their own picks. When they are back in studio, which is all varied, they'll be wearing them as well, but pretty darn good-looking shirt right there, if I might say so myself. You can get that at alldlls.com, and if you're a diehard, of course, you get 20% off. If you haven't signed up, sign up now to be a diehard. You'll get a free t-shirt of your choice. It could be one of those. So it is sharp, it's comfortable, and which one do you like best? All right, so there's Sam, there's Luds, and now we're going to welcome in our guest of the day, our guest of honor. Nope, not quite yet. So Greg Wyshynski will be joining us in just a moment here. Luds, is it still 55 degrees in Wisconsin?
66 right now.
Oh, and I'm sweating in the studio. Because you know the air conditioning in here works.
Oh, it does?
No, not really. It was colder yesterday, but maybe that's because it was overcast outside. So for people of show planning purposes, Sam, you're back next week, correct? In studio?
Yep, I'll be back. Yep.
Wednesday, I think it is.
Yes,
and
sir.
And then Luds, depending on if the contract negotiations go through.
Yeah, they're not going through well right now. I've got no response.
There you go. All right, now we'll welcome in. We have him, Greg Wyshynski from ESPN and ESPN.com, joining us here live, wearing a brand new Utah Mammoth hat. First and foremost, Greg,
they were nice enough to send it to me, so I figure I should probably wear it on occasion. It's not a Fanatics type hat. It's like really thick, almost feels like an old timey baseball jersey, like I'm in the 1920s. But it's a good looking hat, good looking logo. I don't mind the Mammoth logo.
Hey, Greg, there's nothing wrong with the 20s. I was born like right at the end of them.
See,
I just get that out there before these idiots throw it out there. By the way, that hat reminds me of a hat that I'm getting. I saw last night. Same colors, everything, the combination, except there's a circle and it has the word beer, literally B-E-E-R, spelled in the middle of it. And below it, it has the number 30. I think it's the coolest hat I'm ever going to have.
It's that time of day,
you
guys.
Yes, Sam doesn't even know what the hell that means, but it's always beer 30, right?
It's always beer 30. I agree, especially in the summer for a hockey writer.
Greg, 2 things on the hat.
Of summer, are you working or are you on vacation?
Oh no, it's constant work. I mean, it's work. I just had a story that went on ESPN.com today about Gavin McKenna, the presumed first overall pick next year, who committed to Penn State, and about how that changes the landscape for NHL prospects. And then on top of that, I've got a ton of podcasts that I do for the Puck Soup Network, which is the hockey podcast I used to host. I do a bunch of non-hockey podcasts for our Patreon, and we have a pretty robust subscriber based, and I'm not going to leave them hanging for the summer. So even though yesterday was spent pounding beers and smoking cigars at Saratoga Racetrack, the rest of the week is a work week.
I'll order 2 of those hats then. We'll get one of them to you for saying that. I'll get you a hat.
Please do.
All right, Sam, you were the one that booked our prestigious guest, so I will give you the honor of the next first question since Ludge dove right in.
Yeah, Lud's only asked the first question. That's what he does.
I'm done.
Yeah, Greg, I'm curious. A lot of people don't understand national reporters' jobs, right? It's very different from a local beat writer. I would love to hear just kind of what your job looks like during the season. How do you get your assignments? How do you figure out what you're going to write, what games you're going to go to or cover? Just how does that all work for you at ESPN?
We have a lot of autonomy. It's myself, it's Emily Kaplan when she has a chance to write because she's on TV all the time. Ryan Clark and Kristen Shilton. Ryan's kind of on the West, Kristen's kind of on the East. I'm kind of all over the place. I think I probably handle more league level issues than the other two. And then obviously I do a lot of like all encompassing league stuff too. Like one of those, like, here's what all 32 teams are doing kind of stuff. But I also write a lot of features. So the gist of it is that if there's something that I feel passionate about writing, I'll take it to my editors. If they dig it, then I'll go ahead and write it. And that could require me to travel. It could require me to just catch teams as they come through the New York area. I'm based in Brooklyn, so I've got the Islanders, Rangers, and Devils at my disposal for when teams come to town. And then, that's kind of the year until you get to the playoffs. And then once that happens, then I'm pretty much on the road from the end of the first round until the end of the whole thing in June. It's a bit of a grind, but being on site for the playoffs, I think it's a real joy. And it really helps you cover things in a better way than you could just watching it off your television. So again, like my normal day is a lot of phone calls to sources and chatting up people and talking hockey. And then also just kind of keeping your eye out there as to what stories are generating buzz and what's, what we should be writing about, but also like as a national writer, who haven't we written about yet? Or who haven't we written about in a while? Like, I wish my job was as easy as being like, what is LeBron up to? Like, you know what I mean? But like, I gotta make sure all my bases are covered and make sure that everybody knows that ESPN's paying attention to their team.
Boy, that's perfect segue because I had this as one of my notes was a funny Twitter question that I couldn't help but ask. Why are you obsessed with Quinn Hughes?
It seems like I'm obsessed with Quinn. So an interesting thing that's happened in hockey writing or in media pretty much is you've got Twitter feeds that are dedicated to listening to podcasts and interviews that people like me do. And then they take things that I say and then they tweet out summaries of them. And that's fine. That's been going on forever. I think even back at Puck Daddy on Yahoo, we used to do sort of compendiums of what people had said on radio shows. But then those Twitter feeds then get picked up by accounts on Instagram that are usually like creating memes of hockey things. And then they get proliferated all over the place.
Luds, we'll explain all this to you later.
Right. So essentially my point is that people always think I'm always talking about Quinn Hughes or Sidney Crosby because I'll have talked about it once and then they'll have read about it in 7 different places. And so it seems like I'm always talking about these things when in actuality, I probably talked about it once on a podcast with Jeff Merrick. And then, it got, aggregated in 17 different places.
Hey, Greg, when you guys are talking about your sources and all this, I'm really curious about the source stuff. Like, are they just all different types, and how do you trust them? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you buying them beers? But I like because usually when you guys put stuff out there, it happens. You know what I mean? Like, is it the general managers, or is it an assistant, or is it a player, or is it just all of the above? And when do you feel comfortable enough to print it?
I mean, luckily for me, I make everything up. So there's no pressure in developing sources. Occasionally, things I make up come true, which makes me look smart. No, it's a great question because, it's one of the toughest things about the job is trying to generate a collection of sources and generate a group of people that you're comfortable with insofar as them having good information, but also they're comfortable with you knowing if they share information with you that it's going to be handled in a professional way, that, obviously a certain amount of anonymity will be given to sources, that I'm not running around just telling everybody what everybody else says, like there's it's a very, very nuanced thing, and I'm not saying I'm any good at it, because one of the challenges for me as a national writer, when it comes to sourcing, is that I'm also very opinionated, and so it's really created a situation where there are some people that will never talk to me or don't even care about me, or are angry with me, and then there are other people that think the things I say are pretty funny, and insightful, and like the fact that I am opinionated, and those are the people that have kind of gravitated towards me as sources over the years. So every year it changes depending on what the story du jour might be. I might be talking to an agent more one year than another year. Might be talking to some teams more one year than another year, just based on who's going to be up for a contract or who's good or who's not. But over time you get a good collection of people that you can not only get on the phone if you need to get some clarification on something, but also just shoot the shit with if you just want to talk hockey during the day. And the other thing too, about there's also like the league part of it too, and in those cases it's sometimes a lot tougher to get people to talk about the league, because there's a cone of silence about certain subjects, and you also don't want to rock the boat if things are kind of progressing, like trying to get people to talk candidly about the CBA, for example, like in the weeks prior to its ratification, was difficult, just because no one wanted to be the one who leaks something and all of a sudden the process gets messed up. But the league is actually pretty good. If I've got a question about a story and I just need to get a response from Bill Daly, for example, for clarification, they're pretty good with getting back to me.
Do you ever have anybody that calls you and gives you info, or is it mainly always you calling somebody else?
Oh no, the door swings both ways for sure. I mean, when it comes to agents, it's usually somebody who is has somebody in a contract year they're trying to get a little bit of buzz for, or trying to get some recognition for, insofar as awards is a thing too. There are teams that will reach out if they think that they've got something good going on that maybe isn't being covered on a national basis. I should say the ESPN of it all is also a big deal. I mean, when you are working for ESPN, and then on top of that, you're working for a rights holder, it does create a little bit more of an access point than I would have had working somewhere else. I mean,
you're saying that ESPN opens doors that Puck Daddy or AOL Faceoff doesn't?
It does occasionally, but also has its pressures and downsides too when it comes to coverage. But I think honestly, the most times that I hear from people calling me is after I write something and it resonates, and then I get people calling me to kind of add their 2 cents in. Like the McKenna thing that ran today. I had people reaching out this morning telling me about their own takes on what's happening with junior hockey, with Canadian junior hockey and the NCAA and things like that. So that's actually probably the largest volume of feedback I get, is when something's already published and people want to kind of chime in on it.
All right, well, let's talk about that. Hold on, Sam, just a second. We've got to do a quick ad break, and let's get into the NIL talk and some Dallas Stars related things with Greg Wyshynski next here on DLLS.
As usual, we lead off with the only guy that can speak in sentences. Rugged Road is dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the best. Their products are designed with the highest quality materials and craftsmanship, ensuring they perform in the toughest conditions. Whether you're on land or water, Rugged Road gear is built to accompany you on every adventure. One of the most unique features is its ability to always float upright. Crafted to handle the toughest environments, their coolers are built to last ensuring they can keep up with any adventure. The coolers are guaranteed to keep your contents cool up to 7 days. I'm not sure Greg has ever had that issue either. Perfect for a variety of outdoor activities, from fishing and tubing to camping and tailgating. Their coolers are designed to meet every need of every outdoor or sports enthusiast. So gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road coolers. They are reliable, durable, and built to be used. Rugged Road is your outdoor ultimate companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use code DLLS for 10% off.
Thanks, Luds. Well done. Let's talk about Monarch Money now, I guess. Finances can be messy and confusing, but Monarch Money acts like your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control so you can stop earning and start growing. It's more than just your average budgeting app. Monarch Money is a complete financial command center for your accounts, investments, and goals. If you haven't already seen it, go check it out. The pictures of how everything is simplified, it's a very cool system, and they do it really well. Plus, you can save 50% if you listen to our show, so that's always a bonus. Without a clear financial picture, financial dreams can feel out of reach, but Monarch Money makes managing your money simple and easy, even for the busiest of lives. Finance tool people actually love. Join over 1 million households. Named Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app of 2025 and the top recommended personal finance app with over 30,000 5-star reviews. That's a lot of people. Get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. Use code DLLS at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That is 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code DLLS. Stop earning and start growing your money with Monarch Money.
All right, fellas, we'll bring Greg back in. I want to ask you about the Stars, but before we do, just to carry over the Gavin McKenna talk, your piece was great. I read it, and one of the things I couldn't help but notice without laughing a little bit, or maybe a bit of a sardonic chuckle, was the inherent irony in this whole switcheroo with the CHL, the Canadian Junior Hockey League, and the NCAA, because it was literally because Canadian junior players were making a stipend, hardly any money at all, but they were being deemed as professionals. And now Gavin McKenna, although his agent, as you wrote, insists that NIL money was not the driving factor, his NIL money is a huge part of why he's going to college hockey, and I can't help but laugh at the irony of that.
He's getting $700K or in the neighborhood from Penn State boosters. I mean, that's not chump change. And it wasn't simply just that the players were getting a stipend. It was also the NCAA saying that there were players on professional contracts playing in Canadian juniors. So, by virtue of that, they considered the Canadian juniors to be a professional league. And so NCAA rules prohibited college players from playing Canadian junior and then playing in the NCAA. And so for those who don't know, that used to be the pressure point for kids that were like 15. It was like you could either go and play junior hockey in Canada, or you could decide you're going to go and play in the NCAA. And typically a lot of them would choose Canadian junior instead. So the rules dramatically changed last year officially, in which the NCAA allowed kids who played Canadian junior to come and play college hockey after that. And McKenna is the perfect case. Like, he played 2.5 seasons basically in Medicine Hat, and now he's going to play his final year before his draft year with Penn State, make $700,000, basically become the face of that program, have Penn State next to his name for the rest of his life. I mean, it is as someone told me for the story, like, this is now the pipeline for an elite Canadian athlete. It's going to be junior for a few years, NCAA to grab that money, and then also play against top competition, and also not play the same cadence of schedule that you have to play in junior, and then like on to the draft after that. And then the other thing too is that because these rules changed, there's a lot of thought that a lot of teams in the NHL are going to draft players and then send them to college, or have them go to college for a season, because that's going to give them a nice preparatory thing rather than sending them back to Canadian junior.
Luds, do you see the background that Greg has there? That's what I got to get going up. We got the tag, you got the books. I'm usually in some dungeon and Luds makes fun of me, but
every time.
Dude,
Greg,
when you're on ESPN, like, have you seen Mina Kimes' setup on ESPN? It's like immaculate. Like, there's so much pressure to try to do this thing. behind me when you know you're going to be on like SportsCenter or something, because everybody else does. Trust me, when I first started doing the ESPN hits like digitally, like I was in a corner and it looked like I was being interrogated by myself. So I knew I had to up my game and at least make this thing more aesthetically pleasing. At least maybe it could take some of the attention off of this, if I've got enough books behind me.
Sam had a flag
fair.
of the Taliban hanging behind him a couple of weeks ago.
Oh my.
It's true. It was very discerning.
All right, moving on. Let's talk a little bit about the team we get to cover, which is the Dallas Stars. We've talked a ton about Jason Robertson, trade rumors, everything that goes around him. So I'm going to leave this pretty open-ended for you. What do you think, and where do you stand currently on Jason Robertson, where he's on his contract, trade rumors, everything about it?
I mean, he's such a terrific player, and it's so weird to think about one of the guys that clearly wasn't the problem offensively in the playoffs all of a sudden being put out there in trade talk as it seemingly has been since I remember hearing stuff during the Stanley Cup final about Robertson potentially being dangled out there. But I think it's sort of the same deal as Minnesota had been going through with Marco Rossi, in the sense of like, if you don't want to commit long term to the player at the price point that he could probably get on the open market, then you do have to kind of do your due diligence and explore what might be out there. And in particular, if you're Dallas, I mean, if what might be out there is a talent for talent trade that could bolster another part of your team, then you got to explore it. It's hard for me to really say like how vigorous the shopping is or what the probability is that he won't be on the roster come next season. But given where his contract status is and given what they might think about him and in totality, I mean, he's an incredibly gifted offensive player who I think can have a lot of inconsistency creep into his game in different places. I don't blame him for poking around.
I'm assuming Owen's going to want to ask a Dallas Stars question, so I'll make sure he gets to do that since he.
Go ahead, Luds. I got lots.
No, you got a tattoo of the Stars on your ass, so it doesn't matter. I'll do it. What I want to know here's the scoop that I'd like to have.
I'm not showing you, Luds. Is
this draft going back to the format from last year, or is it going to be the real draft?
It's going back to the format from this year. Like the GMs and the teams, from everybody I've talked to, there's not been a formal announcement yet, but it seems like there's an incredible amount of support for it to be decentralized again. Now, I mentioned the GMs. I should say I don't necessarily know how much of this is coming from the GMs. I heard Bill Armstrong of the Utah Mammoth speak the other day, and he said that the decision to do decentralized again was one the team was making. That doesn't mean he's making it. And I think the thing for the league right now is that the teams saw how much they spend to normally do the traditional draft in sending their GMs and their AGMs and their scouts and their PR staff and their social media staff and all these people on the road, and then put them up in hotels in like Los Angeles, and how much that costs versus how much it costs to just do this whole thing in their practice facility. And the cost difference is enormous. So as much as it wasn't great for us in the media, for the viewers at home, although I'm sure they'll change the way they do the presentation of the picks next season in a pretty dramatic way, the teams ultimately save so much money that I think that they're going to want to do it again in that format.
So, okay, couple things.
I knew
First, I want to have you tell this idea that you had, because Luds, I think, might disagree, but I want this interaction. So you had a great idea. I truly believe this. This is not placating to you, Greg, at all, about how to award the Lady Byng, because it's an award that feels like it gets cast aside. And I think it's a really interesting one. So if you would share it with everyone, and then I want Luds to react, because I brought this up when you did this. I think it was a couple weeks ago now. But Lady Byng Award, how would you make it better?
Well, it's an award for gentlemanly play, and the writers write about it or vote on it, and we are the antithesis of gentlemanly. We should not have anything to do with this award. It's a stupid idea. I would have the on-ice officials determine who wins the Lady Byng. And if not them, then a combination of maybe the players in the league and the on-ice officials. I just think that if you want to know who is the most gentlemanly player, it's probably the people that interact with these players on a game-by-game basis. The writers currently look at penalty minutes and points. That's all we look at when we determine the Lady Byng. I think the on-ice officials could do a much better job.
Luds?
I just can't even stand the word gentlemanly play. I mean, if there's 750 players in the NHL, if there's 750 players in the NHL, they could probably give 700 of them the award. That's what I think of the gentlemanly play and the way the league is played right now. You know what? I think it would. I can't believe half the guys would just not say, no, I don't want it, to be honest with you. I mean, does anybody have a bonus in their contract for the Byng trophy?
I can't imagine they do. I mean, it could be just a general NHL awards type deal. I don't know, but I get what you're saying. I mean, I remember back in the day, I think either Stan Mikita or Bobby Hull won the Lady. I think it was Mikita won the Lady Byng, and he's just like, I don't want it. Yeah, and I get that, but I mean, I'm sure there's probably if the year Slavin won it for Carolina, like the idea that you're a defenseman who's able to be as good as a guy like Slavin, and then not take a ton of penalty minutes. Like if you want to frame that as gentlemanly play, then I think that's kind of a worthy award to receive. But ultimately, like I said, I mean, it's usually just like lowest penalty minutes, most points, and it just kind of renders the award pointless. And maybe the existence of an award for gentlemanly play in 2025 already renders it pointless, but we certainly shouldn't be the ones voting on it.
Hey, Luds, if they changed the description of it to the most disciplined player versus the most gentlemanly, do you think that would be a less negative connotation for the players?
I still know what it means. I don't care what you want to call it. And I know you have probably 4 of those for broadcasting in some kind of form for radio network.
Hey, I don't take offensive zone penalties on this show, Luds.
Yeah.
All right.
Next.
So my other one, and then we'll let Sam ask the last one because I know we don't have Greg for too much time. I've been going through, because I know how to party, the CBA Memorandum of Understanding, as I know you have as well. And one of the things that stood out to me, which makes no sense, is the half-hearted e-bug, emergency backup goalie alterations, because they made the rule so that now you can't have an e-bug play for both teams. It has to be your team only. I get that.
Right.
I understand why that's the case. The fact that a guy could come into the game for either team was inherently weird. But then there's all these limitations about they must not have played an NHL game on a standard player contract, less than 80 pro games, haven't played pro in the last 3 years. So it's basically Sam and I qualify, and I think you do too, and we could play. So for all the talk that they've made about how the e-bug and this professional league where points matter and there's a lot of money and prestige on the line, it's still the Zamboni driver. They just can't play for both teams. Why?
But it's not, though. I mean, like, teams are now able to designate somebody every game, and they can pick and choose, and it's not going to be a situation where it's the Zamboni driver and he could play for either team. I mean, I think the point of it is to try to make it more refined, to make it a little bit more predictable, rather than having some rando play goal for either team in an emergency situation. To your point, like it should just be like a third string goalie. I mean, like the NFL, you've got three quarterbacks on the roster at all times, and in cases of emergency, and they should probably do the same thing with goalies. But that's probably that creates a much deeper and more nuanced conversation about roster size and adding a player and what will you give us back for that NHLPA, than simply just being like, your videographer can play goal if he knows how to. It's like,
right. Well, I mean, I guess for me, I would think
combo.
that the 4A guy, the really good veteran AHL journeyman goalie, or the career backup in the NHL that maybe couldn't keep going, those kind of guys that maybe are out of a job could now have a, pretty decent paying career still, or, for a couple more years, and be that practice goalie in the e-bug.
Yeah, but I mean, like, listen, I think what they're trying to guard against is like the Panthers are playing whoever, and whoever's e-bug is the Zamboni driver, and the Panthers e-bug is Roberto Luongo.
Yeah.
It's like there is a certain amount of like quality control that I think the NHL wants to put on this thing, insofar as like not having it be a disparity. All of a sudden, Dominic Hasek retires, and the next year he just so happens to be a head of catering for the Detroit Red Wings, and if they need him, he's there. So like
food would be great.
I get it from that perspective. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to do one more for you, Greg. I have a bunch for you, but I know I wanted to get at least one from our fans. So from one of our diehards, they asked, what is the national media's perspective on Wyatt Johnston, and why is it so hard for ESPN to pronounce his name correctly?
I mean, listen, I definitely wrote Johnson a few times when he was a rookie.
So did Pete DeBoer.
Really... Yeah, and I feel terrible about that, because it's not like there isn't a Chris Johnston who's a friend of mine who's like in the media. I should probably understand that there are guys named Johnston. I listen, I think he's a terrific player. I don't know what the hell happened to him in the playoffs. Like, was that a situation where like injury news came out about that cat after the season or whatever? Because like the change in production for him was startling year over year. So I think he's terrific. He's clearly an extremely important player for the franchise going forward. I love his offensive game. I love the tenacity in his game. I love the fact that he learned at the foot of Joe Pavelski when he was there on how to be that type of player. But the last postseason was a little disconcerting because if there was one thing about him that we all sort of counted on, it was him stepping up and being one of the true offensive leaders in the playoffs every year he's been in this league, and it just didn't happen for him this year.
Well, Greg, really appreciate you stepping on today. We are unfortunately out of time for you, which is unfortunate for me because I wanted to ask you about the Leafs public blackmailing of the Vegas Golden Knights with tampering allegations and all that. But we'll have to save that for another day. But sincerely, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Appreciate it.
No, it's my pleasure. I'm happy we were able to do it. And we were bouncing around schedule-wise for a while, and today was a good day to do this. So much appreciated. Great show, and we'll talk to you boys soon.
All right, there he goes. Thanks, Greg Wyshynski, senior NHL writer for ESPN. Up next, let's talk more about that schedule release here on DLLS.
All right. I think this time around I'm going to read Empire Today.
I could do Rugged Road again if you'd prefer.
Do it again. Let's. Just like your favorite team needs a home ice advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage, and Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring and flooring only every single day. We've all heard about those big box stores. You wander the aisles. Somehow you end up hauling all the stuff home yourself, taking a guess on what you should buy, looking for an installer, and coordinating everything on your own. Those big box stores might have a flooring department, but the person helping you with flooring may have been doing something completely different yesterday and will be in a different department again tomorrow. So why is Empire Today your best bet for a new floor? They live and breathe flooring. Their flooring experts bring the showroom right to your home, where you can pick the right flooring and colors to your space with their awesome designer and see exactly what it looks like with the furniture that you already have. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. DLS listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code DLLS. You heard that right, $350 discount with code DLS. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday/DLS for full details.
All right, let's talk about Shady Rays. You know that moment, the one where you realize you left your sunglasses on the roof of your car or at the beach or 3 states away at the gas station, or maybe you got out of the car and just stepped on them, or they fell out of your pocket and got scuffed up in the driveway. That's happened to me before. Well, we've all been there. Then you find Shady Rays, and that is where things really change in the game because these sunglasses are made for real life, seriously good-looking, polarized, durable, and not stupidly expensive. And here's the wild part. If you lose or break them, even on day one of your purchase, at least when you receive your purchase, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair, no guilt trip, just replacements. We've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com. Use the code DLLS35 right down there at the bottom of the screen. DLLS35 to get 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Okay. Very much thank you to Greg Wyshynski for joining us today. I had a lot more questions. And Sam, I'm glad you jumped into the Discord there because we had a bunch, including Luds. The second question of the diehards was, ask Greg if he knows what a grundle is. But we laughed and didn't do that one. So that will continue on another day. But I just wanted to point out something that I don't know if all of our fans noticed. Now, maybe some of them did. But look, a couple years ago, the NFL, I think, might have been the first started doing really creative schedule release things. And I remember, I think it was the Tennessee Titans did a really great one where they asked people on Broadway in Nashville the names of logos, and they were all botched and butchered. It was hilarious. Well, people have been getting creative with schedule releases, and the Stars did one where they actually, as part of their release, asked some of the current Dallas Stars players to draw logos of some of the teams they'll be playing this year. So, Elijah, if you put that up on the screen, as you see at the top, Leon Bischel did the Ducks and the Lightning. Jake Ottinger getting into some pretty nice detail with the Minnesota Wild. No surprise that the Minnesota boy drew the Wild logo. You got Wyatt Johnston, Sam, did the Avalanche. Thomas Harley, which I can only guess is the Winnipeg Jets and the St. Louis Blues. And then for my money, look at Maverick Bork's use of color. The Florida Panthers
Florida
logo
is really
quite
good.
The Montreal Canadiens one, I mean, he's from Quebec, so no surprise he did Montreal. But what were your thoughts if you looked through this of who's better artistically and who's maybe not so good artistically?
Well, no question.
I'm going to go ahead and say I was just going to say Jake's Minnesota Wild one is good because that's a hard logo. There's a lot of things that go on in that logo. But if you look at them all, and then if you didn't put the names there, the other ones mostly look like adults. Thomas Harley's looks like it was the children at the summer camp that were drawing it instead. I mean, those aren't easy. They're not easy. I'm not going to say they're just
the
a
Jets
circle,
one is tricky.
That Blues one is absolutely hysterical.
Bloods, winners, and losers there.
Harley's loser. But I think Bork's Florida one is great.
Yeah, really, really nice. Well, you're not the only one who thought Harley could use some work because our friend of the show, former star Scott Wedgwood, chimed in on Instagram saying Scarlett, his daughter, can do better.
I love that. I love that Wedgwood is the biggest troll on social media too. He pops out of nowhere and he's not on social media at all. And then all of a sudden he just pops into people's comments with things like that. So good to see the boys still picking on each other, even though they're not teammates anymore. I'm sure Harley's feeling that one deep in the heart.
Well, the good news is that Luds has got Harley on his shirt today. So he's supporting that in one way. I actually saw a comment yesterday, Luds, in our show where it said we need to get, not we, but the Stars need to get Harley on a Harley.
Oh yeah.
You know what? I can vouch for ownership and GMs. They don't want that.
Yeah.
We had 7 or 8 guys at one point and they were scared to death every other day. So especially when you have guys like Hatcher and Sador riding Harleys, a couple of the other ones like of us, they didn't really care. But when you got your big guys, your money guys out there doing that kind of stuff. So I don't think that they would, as a matter of fact, I don't even know if that contract has changed, but I know that in the original contract, if you actually read through it, you couldn't have motorcycles. There was a whole bunch of things that you couldn't do. Now,
how did you circumvent that?
I didn't really worry about it. I mean, what? I didn't think they were too concerned about me. They're thinking, Jesus, we drafted a guy and we're paying this guy. Maybe we can get rid of him one way or another. So, yeah. But the thing is, you couldn't water ski. I mean, there were a lot of activities that are just standard for guys that were in the standard contracts at the time. So
yeah, I don't think the league wants guys taking the Olympic break to go downhill skiing during the season.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So I don't know.
Well, Luds, I know how active you are on social media, but Buffalo did a really fun one where they took photos of dinner plates or, fancy culinary plating of chicken wings, aka Buffalo, as some of their schedule releases and did some fun ones. But by far, they had a neat one where it was a picture of a wing with a little tail. It looked like a rat and then said Florida Panthers. Yeah. They had one that was gilded with gold for Vegas. I believe I enjoyed, Sam, the Carolina Hurricanes one where it said a bunch of jerks, and then they had 3 Caribbean jerk chicken wings on the plate. But Luds, I don't know if you've seen this yet, but this is the one they had for the Dallas Stars.
I got to be honest with you. I did see this picture the other day. I didn't even get it. I didn't get it.
Do you see what it says at the top? No wing.
Oh, well, I didn't know that. Man, that looks like somebody just pissed on the plate or something like that.
Luds, what happened in the most famous game that you've ever played against the Buffalo Sabres?
Yeah, but I just saw that. I didn't even know. I didn't see any context to it, talking about what was going on. It looks like some little kid. I would have never guessed that those were chicken legs or wings or whatever. I would have never guessed.
Right. So there's no wing on the plate because they're saying it's no goal.
I don't understand. Was Detroit playing in this series, or what do the wings got to do with anything?
They're all wings. All of the teams they released as Buffalo wings because they're from Buffalo. So everyone had a different type of wing. Like the Blues one literally just said, I don't know, just make it blue. But the Stars one was just sauce in the top of the crease, touching the crease, and it said no wing. They're still mad about it.
Well, good. Let them be mad. And again, that sauce looks like it's hot sauce too to me. I mean, there was a place there called Sinatra's is where we went, and it was kind of an older. I don't even know if it's still around, but they did have great wings. But you just got to get them plain. Let's get some plain.
What's your nothing else? What I was going to say? You go plain. What's your go-to? Just a plain?
No, I go plain. I don't do that. I sit there with buddies that get the 911 and all these other ones, and they just get beads of sweat coming down their face, and they're in pain. And I'm like, I don't get it, man. I don't understand what you're getting out of the whole thing. So sometimes I get the, I think there's a garlic thing or something like that. Garlic one. But yeah, I want all my stuff plain. Nothing. I'm going to McDonald's. I want my burger plain.
Hey, look, not that you feel bad at all. Tacos. Check out this comment from Taylor. If Elijah pops that up. To be fair, Taylor says, I didn't understand until Owen explained, and I'm 22. Ha ha. See, you're not the only one that didn't get it.
Okay, why do we got to throw 22 in there?
Because there's only a few decades between the two of you?
Like I'm 3 times her age? Is that what she's trying to say?
Yeah.
I think so. And by the way, Native Hawaiian wrote in, 2025, still a good goal, boys. Cry some more.
Yeah, agreed.
It was a good goal. Just go through it. Just go through, dissect the rule. It was a good goal. Go watch the overhead. It was a good rule. It was a good goal.
Sam, we didn't pull any photos from the other ones, but I don't know if there was a team that you liked as far as some of the schedule release creativity. I thought the Calgary Flames using Ryan Lomberg as Lombo, a Rambo takeoff, was pretty funny. He's out there in bare feet and no shirt and mud smeared all over, running around the grass. That was pretty creative. Was there one that you liked?
Yeah, the Kings one was really funny. We can't put it's a 4-minute video, so we can't play any of it. But it had people from, I think it's the Empty Netters and Almost Friday TV podcast, and they basically sat in a room and said, the Kings hired us to come up with their schedule. All we needed to do is get the building availability, the home and away requirements, the divisional requirements, like the building, like they went through all the different things that schedulers have to go through. And like at one point, Drew Doughty came in and delivered food as a DoorDash delivery guy, and they're like, we don't have time for this, and slammed the door on him. So that was really funny. But they had I think they called it the ROI. It was like an AI machine. It just looked like the oldest, crappiest computer, and they put it all in there. And at the very end, it was like, schedule complete, and they were just praying like, thank God we finally did it. But it did give me a good idea that we should hunt down some of the people that are in charge of making these schedules and get them on our show to talk about it, because the amount of things they have to go through to figure out this NHL schedule is wild, and then everyone gets mad at them no matter what.
I can't imagine doing that job, but I still want to complain about problems of the schedule, but I don't want to offer a solution.
What's
that, Luds?
I've seen the board. The guys in Montreal used to do it, and I don't know where they do it now, but I've seen it's I don't know how they do it. You're 100% right. And trying to juggle the dates and what dates everybody wants and all the other kind of stuff.
All right. Well, kudos to the Sabres for their creativity, the Flames, the Kings, and of course the Stars and Scott Wedgwood. Up next, we have some NHL news and notes here on the DLLS Stars Podcast. But first, let's talk about a couple of things.
Stuck behind the garbage cans over here.
Yeah, go get them, lads. Let's talk about being a diehard for a minute, because first and foremost, sign up with that QR code below, Sam. That takes you to alldls.com. If you haven't already signed up, do so. Multiple reasons why. One of them, of course, is you can get a free t-shirt from DLS of your choice for your first year of your annual subscription. And in doing so, you could dive into our new merchandise collection, which is the Dallas collection. I'm wearing the Nolan Ryan shirt today. First time as I was given to by GM Ben yesterday. Check out some of those Dallas collection shirts out there. There are 6 to choose from. Brand new merchandise release. And it's going to be on your screen any second now. There it is. Including, of course, the big text with the corn dogs underneath. The one in the middle in the top row is actually a combination of all the Dallas Pro Sports mascots. So that's a little weird looking, but maybe you might find it cute. Everybody's got to find a home. I know Luds is a big fan of the Dallas versus all y'all shirt, the black one in the middle of the bottom row there. Anyway, that's the newest drop. We, of course, have all the Stars-centric ones, whether it's the Finnish Mafia, the Otter shirt, the Jamie Benn captain one, the Wyatt 16-bit. You get the idea. Lots of shirts. If you're a DLS diehard, not only do you get a free shirt the first year you sign up, you also get 20% off other merchandise and get access to all of the other things that we do, including the writing. Sam, Sean for the Stars, Tim Cato with the Mavs, Jeff Wilson, of course, Clarence Hill, Jeff with the Rangers, and Clarence for the Cowboys. And if you are a diehard, you get that ad-free. So you can read, whether it's on your phone or on the website, you can do so without having to have ads piling up on the screen, even for the ones that are unlocked for every viewer. So check those out. And that DLLS newsletter in your email inbox every morning. Sign up on the website today. Go to alldls.com. Sign up to be a diehard, get the newsletter, and all the things that come with it. And become part of the Discord server, which only for diehards, and we had questions today for Greg Wyshynski. All right. Some NHL news and notes. Luds, this Yegor Chinnikov news that we were seeing right at the start of it, that seems like that raises an eyebrow or two if a good young player wants to be traded.
Yeah, again, ice time, probably somewhere between 12 and 14 minutes a game. He's played 175 games or so. He's got, I believe it's like 36 goals, and only 5 of them are power play goals. So I'm thinking he's probably, I mean, again, number-wise, shooting percentage, I think I looked, and his shooting percentage is probably on average 10, 11%, which isn't bad. So, for maybe the times that he gets, thinks he can play more. From a goal standpoint, a shooting percentage standpoint, maybe thinks that he could be more of a power play goal. I think he's only like 24, something like that. So I'm guessing but again, it's coming out of I think it's called the Sport Express or whatever in Russia. So I think there's been other articles like that have come out, and they aren't always necessarily true and get caught a little bit off kilter in translation once in a while. So, but again, I would think that type of a player, if that's what you're looking for, probably would be, worth it for a couple teams, or interesting for a couple teams.
Bing bang.
Oh, we got a super chat.
Oh,
I love Misty 1985 with a Ludwig. Being a soup quarter is almost as cool as a diehard. That's, of course, a shout out to Puck Soup and Greg Wyshynski. Sam, with Chinnikov, 2.1 is his cap hit. 24, as Luds mentioned. Hasn't played a ton of games in the last couple of years. As to Luds' point of maybe wanting more ice time, I'm just skimming through this, 30 games last year for the Blue Jackets, 53 the year before, up and down with the AHL club a little bit. He's been in Columbus now for 4 seasons, and he's still, as we said, only 24. But from a Stars perspective, that cap hit might be tricky. He's still an RFA after that, but $2 million is more than they have right now.
Yeah, it's definitely not, it's not like he's a minimum salary or anything to make this an easy, like, why not? But I mean, it's hard to score 16 goals in 53 games and on a bad Columbus team 2 years ago. It's a guy that's shown a little bit and someone's going to take a chance on. It's just tough. Like you said, the 2.1 is a little higher than teams would probably be willing to take a risk if they are tight against it. One other name that I actually just saw a little before our show is someone named Evgeny Kuznetsov is wanting to return to the NHL and said he would take a very low AAV bonus type of structure deal. I think he's 33 in order to come back and play for a contender that's willing to add. Yeah, there you go, lads. We can't see your arms, so all it looks like is you dancing, but I know what you're doing. I'm just curious if either one of you thinks something like that would be a very low, I mean, I'm assuming somewhere under $2 million, would be something that a team is willing to look at, and if that team is potentially a Dallas Stars team. I mean, the guy was a point per game guy only a few years ago.
Sam. You bring him up, Sam. It leads me to something I was thinking about last night. And the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? They have the big four is what they call it. Now, not necessarily, right? So Matthews, Marner, Nylander, and Tavares. Dallas, Rantanen, Hintz, Johnston, Robo. Similar? Am I same kind of players in there, you think?
I mean, you could kind of go like for like and try to compare, but yeah, I mean,
and why is Toronto trying to go a different direction?
Because they weren't getting deep in the playoffs. Wasn't working. Here's my thing. I look at Kuznetsov's numbers over the last 5 years, and he had, 21-22, he had 24 goals and almost 80 points, and point a game player then. But then the next year, 12 goals, 55 points in 81 games, 6 goals and 17 points in 43 games with the Capitals, 2 goals in 20 games with Carolina. Better last year playing in the KHL, but he's 33. Is the 20-goal scorer still there, Luds?
Pass.
Yeah. I like the celebration, right? The bird celebration's great, but I just don't think that's what they're looking for.
What can you do that 5 times a year in a shootout?
I'm curious, Luds, with what you just said, where do you see the Stars needing to go a different direction? I mean, is this just what you've been talking about with more grit and physicality, or are you talking about something else?
Yeah. I'm just saying is it seemed, again, I don't want to say it's exactly the same, but they've been riding it, and they talk about goals all the time. And it's funny, they get a coach that comes in there that's won a Stanley Cup before by playing a certain kind of style. And now, we knew that there was going to be some changes. I mean, Chief was a little more straight line, hard nose. And if you're going to win, you're going to win the playoffs doing this. And it's, again, so I answer your question. Yes, Sam, it's still, I would like to see it be a little bit more difficult on the wings and things like that, and not necessarily going for more guys that can score more goals. I don't think that's always the best way to go about it when you get to game 83. And, we've seen that for a little while. Now, again, that doesn't mean that the game is going to continue to get, I don't want to say softer, but the game is going to continue to be more about scoring goals. It always is, and that's entertaining and everything else. But until somebody wins the championship, outscoring every single mistake all the way through, 28 games or 26 games, whatever it is, then maybe I'll change my mind. And that's going to happen at some point. I know, look at Edmonton back in the day. They weren't necessarily, they had some tough guys on their team, but they did have a guy by the name of Wayne Gretzky and blah, blah, blah. And that's probably why everybody's talking about Edmonton. I mean, Edmonton has, arguably the best top 2-3 players in the league. And even what they're doing right now, I'm going, I don't know if that's a step forward from last year, from what I see. I can't believe they haven't gone out and gotten a goaltender yet. But regardless, they have their way to go about things too.
It is funny you say that, Luz, because if you look at we talk so much about the game changing and everything, but every year, other than maybe the 22 Avalanche, the Stanley Cup champion has been a team that's found a way to play that way that you're talking about. And that Avalanche team just basically had to overcome an average goalie to be able to win. Other than that, it's every team you look at is one with goaltending structure. Florida's obviously one with their two-way hockey. So as much as the game changes through 82 games, the playoffs seem to fall back every year.
Yeah, and the big thing I'm just wondering. I mean, are they going to run it back with the same two goaltenders? Is that what they're thinking? I did hear another goaltender's name, but it was Jari. I don't know if that's the answer, but again, if that's what they're looking forward to, but I just seem like they've gotten rid of some of the grit, I think, that made them a little bit more difficult this year in the playoffs to play against, and so maybe they've gone two different times to the finals, and it seems like they had a different makeup or different kind of chemistry lineup wise, and two of them. And I don't know if I would be tinkering with a lot of what Edmonton had, because the opponent is pretty good. So it doesn't mean that, what the recipe that you were trying to come up with wasn't necessarily the right one. Maybe a different goaltender would have made a difference, or maybe that team is just that good. It wouldn't matter what you do.
When you guys look at, I don't know if we want to just focus on Edmonton, but you look at the league, maybe this is something we should talk about for another segment, of teams that aren't happy with what they have in net, right? And what teams need to get better, because you can win with the best goalie, as we saw. I remember Carolina, right, when they won in 2006, Cam Ward was the Conn Smythe. He was the rookie of the year. He was fantastic. But he wasn't Dominik Hasek. He was just really good at the time. He was good, and a very good NHL goalie. As Sam said, Colorado didn't need to have Martin Brodeur or Patrick Roy to win, although they did have Patrick Roy, but they won, was it Darcy Kemper was their goalie to get over the hump. And I'm just curious how many teams are happy, because as we had Greg Wyshynski on, I was listening to his last appearance with Jeff Merrick on the drive in today, and they were both pretty adamant that if you don't know who's starting in goal in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final, you have a problem. Yeah.
And that's been the case for, Edmonton specifically, but for a bunch of teams. It's been really inconsistent. And that's why, Dallas has that answer. Well, we thought they did, and then Pete DeBoer pulled their goalie. But it's a real important thing to be able to trust your guy and rely on him. When you get to, you might have to, a guy might get pulled here and there. We saw Hellebuck get pulled a couple times. But when you come down to it and you have that game, the Game 6 elimination or Game 7 big game in the second round, and you don't know or fully who you can rely on, and you're questioning who was hot. Did that guy win Game 1? Well, who won the most recent? That's not a good position to be in. And that, as much as people say it in the room and media, that is something the players feel. And that is something you feel behind you, that your goalie's not going to make that extra save. It takes you out of your game a little bit. So the fact that I'm with Lutz, the fact that Edmonton isn't all balls to the wall trying to find a better option is really surprising to me. And I'm wondering if that's a in-season thing they're going to look at.
Lutz, let me ask you this question in that vein. So Merrick and Wyshynski were talking about Pat Verbeek, your buddy, and trading to John Gibson to Detroit. And Merrick's whole statement was, he's not, as an up-and-coming team, like Anaheim wants to make the playoffs this year, they're not going to give John Gibson to the Edmonton Oilers. At least that was his theory, because that's a team they might have to play in the first round. Do you think there's anything there with your buddy Pat Verbeek about not wanting to give Gibson to a team in his division, let alone the conference?
No, I would say that Beaker thinks that they're a team that can get to the playoffs. They might not get to the second round,
right?
And they're not going to get to the finals. So right now they're getting closer, but they're not where they're going to win a Stanley Cup. And so if you can get an asset for Gibson before he gets hurt again, and you know what I'm saying, like he's got, from a health standpoint, he's got 1 foot in a grave and 1 foot on a banana peel. The way it seems. So and he gets something for it, right? And they had a young guy there. I think that they didn't want to lose and keep them, but yeah, I mean, if there were 32 great goaltenders, everybody would have one, but there's not. There's 5-6 great goaltenders, but when you have a goaltender that may not be in your top 3 in the league or top 4, whatever you want to say, but you have top 10 goaltending, you can do things in front of it to alleviate him to having to make so many high danger quality chances by the way you play the game. And you can play that kind of a style and that kind of a game, and you can win with those kind of goaltenders. The Rangers they got a pretty good goaltender, but they didn't have any luck either. But it was what they did in front of them. So,
or what they didn't do in front of them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They were all playing that one kind of system where they follow guys all over the place too.
Well, guys, the bell is ringing on the porch screen door, and guess what? That signifies the end of another episode. But we'll be back tomorrow. Big thank you to Greg Wyshynski from ESPN for joining us today, and of course to our whole crew: Elijah Smith, our producer, Sam Nessler, Craig Ludwig. We have a show at 1:00 Central Time tomorrow. Katya will be in producing for
You hear that, Luds?
Elijah.
I said reminder.
1:00
Central tomorrow. And Luds is leading off the show because he's going to give you a breakdown. We're going to go to school on some of the Stars' offensive needs, what needs to change, something that Pete DeBoer talked about. We'll get to that tomorrow. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And we will be back tomorrow at 1:00 for our Friday show on DLLS.
We all silly like the mayor.